it was hard to find Vasco, but I guess we found them. So let me talk a little bit with you about Vasco. So Vasco works in Minera already for a long time, since 2016, I guess, beginning of 2016. He's a skilled senior software engineer. He's a multicultural type of guy. Okay, so he loves traveling. He already spent a lot of time working from our India offices. So, he's quite travel guy. He's passionate also for cooking. He loves to cook. Traveling is his thing. So one day you can do a call with Vasco from Porto, you call him in the next day and he's in India or somewhere around the world. So it's really hard to catch him. So it's good that he's here in the event. And also, some people say that he loves his plants, and every day, before going to work or something, he go and he looks into his plant. So he's a plant guy. Let's go, Vasco. Let's hope your presentation goes well while we try to help Luke in the backstage. Vasco, come on stage. Come on, let's do it.
Hello?
That's it.
There you go. Sorry, I was having some issues seeing myself or presenting. Am I live? Am I like...
You're live. That's it. You're live. You're live and you have more hair than me. That's it. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave and leave you in the stage. Have fun, Vasco. Have fun.
Containment part. Just give me 1 second to share my screen. I'll just share my entire screen. Hopefully you guys can see a presentation.
Yes.
You're able to still see a presentation on the first page.
Yes, it's working. I'm going to leave.
Yeah. Cool. So I can see myself. I'm not sure if there will be questions or not. I guess there's a QA session. Let me get started. This is container disappointments on AWS. A little bit about myself, like Pedro said. Here's some links to contact me if you want. I've been on Mindera for the past 5 years. I call myself Sorcerer on LinkedIn ever since. And usually I do anything behind the load balancer. Infrastructure, some backend development, databases, pretty much. Today we'll be quickly discussing a recap of containers, some comparisons between Kubernetes and solutions on AWS, such as ECS and Fargate. And last but not least, we'll go over some of disappointments that I've faced, and not only me, but maybe the community as well. So, the scenario, let me just grab a drink of water. So the scenario we're going to be over during some parts will be the simple one. We have 3 services, a GraphQL interface, with 2 other web services, REST APIs, a weather service, and a fire service. You can see that the weather goes and talks with some external third parties like the IPMA and the AccuWeather. Yeah? Obviously, this entails like some other necessary scaffolding around for metrics, for instance, the inclusion of a Datadog agent and yet another third party, and maybe even an API gateway to do some layer 7 routing between the different services. Starting point will be essentially, we will have containers and a service mesh. A quick intro to containers. Essentially, you can think of them as more lightweight virtual machines. You share the underlying resources of the operating system, and you just end up virtualizing some small layers. Typically, what you end up doing is you build on other previous images, such as JVMs, for instance, or nodes, node images, and from there on, you add your own source code, either compiled or not compiled in the case of GraphQL, of Node.js, for instance. It might be also possible to use some images to help you build your image. Nowadays, there is such a thing as like multi-stage Docker containers, where you can have intermediate containers to help build your application, and only the last one will go and build only the last image will be the one that will essentially be your deliverable, per se. And that's very nice. At the end of the day, if you go and you follow these steps, I have like source code for my weather service, fire service, and GraphQL. I have a Docker file that helps me build my service by having the necessary dependencies. And And at the end, I get like a nice container, hopefully, right? A minimal container with just my application to run inside. However, this might not be enough, right? I might have different environments. Different environments might require different databases to talk to, right? So I still need to pick up my application, give it some sort of configuration, pointing to the right database, different settings based on the environment as well, and configuration plus the Docker container itself will give you a deployable within an environment, right? So the configuration of dev plus my GraphQL gives me a dev version of my GraphQL, right? One that works on my dev environment. Other configurations for other environments would work for other services. Not only regarding configuration, but also scalability. So how many number of instances do I need to have in order to handle the load that I have on my system? And so I also would benefit from my container orchestration dealing with that for me, right? I would like to tell it I want 3 instances of a GraphQL, and he will keep me those 3 instances. If one should fail, it will bring up more and so forth. Yeah? More than that as well, maybe some health check to know what images are working, which ones might be failing, not to send a request to failing instances of a given service, right? So container orchestration will help us out with some of these problems: configuration, the number of instances or capacity, health check, and service discovery even, right? Things that we might not have gone through, but how do I communicate with the service? How, do I even care about how many instances there are behind the scenes or not? This is achieved using a separation where there is a data plane and a control plane. A data plane where you define what is your desired state of services, and the control plane where you try to execute according to the data that you have, right? So if I say that I have 3 services, I'll have that information on my data plane, and then it will be the control plane who will try to make it possible to have 3 instances of a GraphQL container, for example. On Kubernetes, this is done with masters and worker nodes, where the masters contains the data plane, essentially, and the worker nodes would be the ones that contain the control plane. In case of a service mesh, it will probably be Envoy proxies if I'm using Istio, for instance. Using an AWS solution, it would probably be AWS will be my data plane, and my container instances, which is jargon for worker nodes on ECS, would be my control plane where I would deploy my machines and my services, yeah? A service mesh essentially helps me define these red lines, where I can say for a service needs to talk with these 2 external third parties, and I can actually enforce these arrows within a network. Am I not only able to define and implement strict network policies with the service mesh, but it also gives me capability of routing between different versions of the same service. In fact, having the possibility of giving me canaries or maybe even A/B testing on the same service, as an example given. So just to very quickly recap, the service mesh allows me to have network policies, control the traffic of the services, and most important of all, observe the traffic that is going through my infrastructure and through my microservices. Going deeper into container orchestration on Kubernetes, you have the pod, which is the smallest unit that knows what a container is. A pod contains multiple containers. This will be my scaling unit. I will scale pod by pod. And then I might have config map and secret, where I'm giving configuration to this container or to the multitude of containers that my pod might contain. A deployment to control the number of pods. If I say that I have like 3 containers, I would like to keep that 3 constant, right? Even if one goes down for any reason whatsoever, as well as health checks. And the service to give me a nice name to communicate with either of the services, right? The weather service or the GraphQL. I would like to communicate with one instance and don't really care which instance it is, just want a name to talk to, a host name, right? And finally, an HPA to help me scale my my services according to some metric. Could be CPU, could be request per second, and and this would increase or decrease the number of instances tried for a given service. Should I be able to like package all of this scaffolding, let's call it? I could use Helm to do a package and deploy it on a Kubernetes cluster. This would be a good starting point, as I would have configuration separated from my deliverables, a way to control and resilient and self-heal my infrastructure as well, scale it out, and be discoverable by other services. If I go for container orchestration on AWS, these being the solution of ECS or Fargate, I would find something similar. So instead of having pods, I now have a thing called tasks, but it's almost a one-to-one equivalent. I have a parameter store, which is a different AWS service that I can use to store secrets. I have a service which not could be confused with the service of Kubernetes, which works as a service discovery. This service would be the equivalent of a deployment on Kubernetes, where it would control me the number of tasks that I have for a given service. So if my GraphQL has like 3 instances, I would see 3 tasks, one service controlling those 3 tasks. A service discovery, which would be the equivalent of a Kubernetes service, just gives me service discovery capabilities, a beautiful name, so other dependencies can talk with it. And an app auto-scaling with a CPU policy to do scaling of my instances according to the load. In here being a little bit limited and not being able to do much more than CPU and memory auto-scaling. In terms of packaging the scaffolding, I could do it with the CloudFormation or Terraform module. Since these would be AWS resources, there wouldn't be much of a difference because the control plane is AWS. I don't have a different data structure like Kubernetes gives me its own Kubernetes manifests. In AWS, there is no AWS manifest or ECS manifests, just AWS resources on their API. Going into the service meshes, picking up on Istio, you have a virtual service which helps define, hey, there's an instance of a GraphQL service or a weather service. And then you might have other components to help you out. So a gateway with destination rules to route traffic to specific services based on their path, for instance. Yeah. And you might have a service entry to model out external dependencies. In our example case, this would be the IPMA, AccuWeather, or Datadog. AppMesh, solution for a service mesh for AWS. You might have some similar resources, a little bit more verbose. You have a virtual service and a virtual node per service to define when it exists. You might also have a virtual router to help you with the canary part, where you say how much weight percentage do you want to route for each virtual node being the underlying tasks that you want to. They also give you a virtual gateway with gateway routes capabilities in order to route to ingress traffic from the outside world into your cluster. And you might model out external dependencies as a virtual service and a virtual node where there is actually no service. It would just be a configuration on the proxies themselves. So just to very quickly recap, according to our scenario that we had previously, we had 3 services, a GraphQL, a weather, and a fire service. If I was using Kubernetes, you would find on top of the Kubernetes cluster and all of the infrastructure that involves, you would find these Kubernetes manifests or packages, if you will, in order to be able to route the requests to different services, and each of them having the capability of auto-scaling and configuration separated from the deliverable, the container itself. On ECS or Fargate, you would find an equivalent world where you would see the equivalent resources and the equivalent packages as well, giving you a similar view. So just going back and forth, not that different names here and there. That's pretty much the set of our story. So this, I think, concludes the part where we compare Kubernetes and ECS and the terminology, just so we can like move on. And finally, we get to the disappointments that I've experienced. So the first disappointment would be Fargate is an expensive product. So In here, you can see the pricing, for instance, of a compute optimized instance. The least of them would be a C6. This is one virtual CPU with 2 GB of memory, essentially. And if you look at the Fargate pricing, you can see that they charge you based on how many CPUs and how many gigabytes your Docker container or task in this case would use. Some quick math, and we can see that Fargate ends up being 45% more expensive than the normal EC2. I'm not saying that the two are comparable as well, because one is containers and the other one is actual virtual machines. But since Fargate, you don't manage the underlying EC2 instances of your clusters. On ECS, you can do this, by the way. I think that Fargate, just not to manage some nodes, ends up being 45%, almost 50%, right, more expensive than managing your own nodes. Might make a lot of difference when it's just for one container. Granted, it has some resources, but clearly Fargate is expensive. It's a little bit disappointing. Another disappointment regarding health checks. So one thing that I can do is on containers, on the deployment, you can configure health check, right? So whenever a container fails its health checks, why should you send traffic to that container if it's already having failures? So ECS and Fargate gives you the same capability. However, when trying to find out which was the container in your task that failed, it doesn't give you that much more information. It just says container health checks failed. Speaking of health checks, in order to have a simple HTTP request to as a health check, you need an additional tool on your Docker image to have an health check as a curl, as a request, an HTTP request. As an example, you can see here, there is a command here that just runs a curl to validate that the application is healthy. And this command is executed from inside the container. What this means is that not only do I have to build a container with my application inside, but then maybe I also need to pollute it with other tools in order to help out with the health check capabilities, right? This might have just be adding another dependency, such as curl, on the case of a Spring Boot service, for instance. But in the case of a Golang service, where I was even abdicating of an operating system because I don't need one, I now need to have one just for the purpose of doing health checks. I need to bring in a lot of dependencies, increasing my security surface attack layer, right? Not a very good experience for the end user. Moving on from health checks, speaking a little bit more about configuration. So if you have a cloud native application, you will be able to probably configure your application using configuration services, as well as you'd be able to configure your containers with configuration files, or maybe even environment variables, yeah? If you use Docker, you can do this very quickly. Here's a command that is trying to do this, where I'm mapping out a file to inside the container, and I have also an environment variable to control some part of my application. Very simple to do, supported from very early on. If I was to do this with Kubernetes, I would do this on the deployment section of my manifest, where I have an environment file, an environment section where I can specify values, static values, or reference values from secrets. I can also mount files or config maps as a volume inside the application, pretty much similar to how I did it with Docker. Not much here, you would say. However, with ECS, you can only do this with static values on the environment variables, and you can reference to the parameter stores resources. So any value that you might have on parameter store, you can reference it as well. Case in point, here's an example, for instance. However, if you try to map a file to a container on ECS or Fargate, there is no other option, no immediate option to just mount the file as we did it with Kubernetes or even with Docker. Just mount me this file in this location. ECS does not give you a resource to do this. So how can you do this? Well, you can do script where you dump an environment variable into a file and then you start your service, having the file in its place at startup. You can integrate your service with AWS SDK for whatever reasons. You can have a script to download some S3 files on startup as well. You can bake images with your own config. So there's other solutions, to be fair, that might be available. I don't think that any of them are pretty. I'm a little bit disappointed as well by this. On top of my services, ignoring here the health check even, I would have to build another layer to help me out with this configuration. Either be dumping environment variables to files or downloading configuration from somewhere on startup using maybe a Docker exec entry point or whatnot. Again, not the best solution. Experience. Virtual gateway stripping. So speaking of the app mesh, it does also give me the capability of having an API gateway where I can specify, look, with this path, go to this service, with this other path, go to this other service. An example with our scenario, I have a GraphQL, a weather, and a fire service, and I have an API gateway with paths towards it. So the virtual gateway of app mesh, with no reason, just because strips the paths of the requests that are incoming and the base path that you define it. What I mean by this is that if I define /graph to go to the GraphQL service, he will send it / to the GraphQL service without the /graph. If I wanted to have that path, I actually needed to duplicate it on the API gateway. So I don't know if you can see what I mean. On the previous example, I have /graph and it just goes to / of the service. On this one, I have /graph and /graph, and he cuts out the first graph to send it to the GraphQL service. Again, dictating how my API more or less should work and how to map it inside. Maybe not the best one, but there are solutions to it, such as use other API gateways, not the one provided by AppMesh. A little bit disappointing because I'm using a service mesh, and this would be a good capability, native one to have, but the ones that they have is opinionated and without an option to configure it on top of it. Speaking of service mesh problems as well, imagine that I have a service that needs to talk with multiple third parties, such as is the case of our weather service, who wants to talk with the IPMA and the AccuWeather APIs. I would not be able to model this on the app mesh as two different entities, or I would, but then the weather stable would not be able to talk with them. The reason because of this is app mesh does not know how to differentiate different TCP traffics on the same port. That's pretty much it. You could use the host name to do this, but they don't. And so if you want to talk with multiple third parties, most likely you will end up having to whitelist the port 443 on your service, which kind of defeats my service mesh because it doesn't seem that I'm more or less in control of my network that much. Whitelist the port 3. And I think that the last one that I'll be talking about is SSL not free. So on a service mesh, I might be able to have an SSL certificate per service that I have. Istio even allows me to have mutual TLS communication between different services. On the app mesh, it's also possible to have an SSL certificate per service, which is good. Doesn't allow me to have mutual TLS between services though. Having an SSL certificate per service implies either me manage my own certificate, which is a little bit of painful and nobody really wants to do it, or having an Amazon private CA, which would be good. The problem is that an Amazon private CA costs around $400 per month. Kind of expensive when it's free on the other side. This concludes my list of disappointments. Thank you so much for the time that you have given me. If you have questions, feel free to ask, or I'll be on the QA stage. I'm not sure if someone's listening. Pedro, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here. I'm right here. Thank you for your presentation. It was very smooth, not like Luke with a bit of adrenaline rush. It was very smooth. Thank you, Vasco. Thank you. Then you can join on the Q&A after Luke and Paulo, and for sure you'll have more questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.